When we worked full-time, we wanted to take a long vacation to Alaska, but we worried about the gap in our resumes. Now that we're retired, you can see that we made it. Taken at 2 a.m. in the direction of the elusive Mount McKinley, this photo showing the land of the midnight sun speaks to a new adventure at every hour of the day. Internet and TV satellites are located 22,000 miles above the equator. In Alaska, we are required to aim our dish as low as 6 degrees above the horizon. With the Alaska's beautiful and numerous mountains, we frequently did without or we sought out Wi-Fi hotspots. These 2 dishes were used by the Elks Club in Homer, Alaska. Good thing that they were aimed over a large stretch of water, or they wouldn't have worked either. This city campsite was in Seward, Alaska, where we were treated to fishing and tour boats coming and going to the Pacific Ocean from this spot. Sea otters played out the front of our windshield. You can see glaciers from almost anywhere in Alaska. Some are so close you can walk on them, be above them or below them, or some are just in your distant view. As you drop off the pavement from British Columbia to Hyder, Alaska, you seem to be transported back in time, but the people are as friendly as can be. This Hyder home expresses the desire for shelter, but proportional considerations were never taken into account. Paint? Why do you need that? Until we saw this rig, quilting an entire RV wasn't even in our imagination. How cold does it get in Alaska anyway? We were told to take shotguns with us to help ward off the big mosquitoes in Alaska. We purchased mosquito netting for our hats, 100% DEET mosquito repellent, and an electric bug zapper that looks like a badminton racket. We didn't use either of the first 2 items on the entire trip, and I, who the mosquitoes love, was only bitten once, and Joanne 0. Anyway, this is photographic proof that mosquitoes are big in Alaska. Forms of art come in many shapes. The fabrics and beadwork here are fabulous. There is one thing that many Alaskans like to point out, especially to Texans. If we divide our state in half, Texas would become the 3rd largest state. Even on foggy days, glaciers are to be noticed. This glacier was on the way to a campground near Glen Ellen, Alaska. Glaciers contain an endless supply of water. Joanne walked a 3/4 mile to this glacier. It was great being able to ignore signs like this because we got to see parts of the country that less bold people would venture into. Our Chevy Tracker's a ZR2. It's 4-wheel drive and has higher clearance. Alaska has so much snow to melt that waterfalls seem to be everywhere. This one was up that closed road. You don't have to stomp the wilderness to see waterfalls. This bellflower has blossoms that mature from the bottom to the top. Alaskans use the fireweed plant as a predictor of departure dust. We call it snow. Once those top blossoms pop out, watch out. As you can see, we still had a few weeks. This single cabbage has a leaf spread of over 5 feet. It must be the long hours of sunshine. Vehicles like this redneck motorhome made our Chevy Tracker look underpowered and underaxled. These people were on a worldwide tour. They seemed very safe from even small arms fire. Joanne's favorite animal is the moose. If I had to, I'm certain that I could count at least 37 moose items in our motorhome. Besides seeing this moose dive completely underwater for the juicy plants on the bottom, we saw her swim so fast that I couldn't believe she wasn't touching the bottom to get such good traction. If you want to see animals, tour Denali National Park. We got to stay at a campground 29 miles into the park. We saved 60 miles each day when we took the mile marker 99 bus ride. We saw 23 grizzlies in one day. Grizzlies eat tens of thousands of soap berries every day that they're ripe. This one had the usual huge claws and a mouth so large that in came the berries, leaves, and branches all together. What amazed us was that each time the leaves and branches came out, they weren't damaged, but the berries were missing. While soap berries are edible, yes, I tasted a couple, I'm going to leave those bitter berries to the bears. What's the difference between a caribou and a reindeer? A domesticated caribou is called a reindeer. This one was in the backyard of a community named North Pole. Your outgoing mail will have that postmark. Grizzlies are not safe, but we got this photo of a mother looking after her 2-year-old cub. Another great part of our travels to and from Alaska are the great views along the way. One of the most visited scenic spots in the province of Alberta is Lake Louise. The fisheries in Alaska are controlled by the state. No big ships can net fish. This lady showed us her family business. They have 6 nets deployed. The shocking part is that they have to make an entire year's living in 6 weeks. Sometimes they're allowed to fish 36 hours straight. The extra non-family help has an incentive to stay until the season is closed because the packing plants pay escalating amounts retroactive through the season. The small businesses are paid these bonuses at the end of each season. Whomever is still working gets an equal share in those bonuses. This is a view of one family fishing area. You can see the permitted territory by looking for the net floats. Okay, take your eyes off the distant scene. Even when closed in, the views seem endless. Everywhere you look, trees, trees, and trees. You wouldn't expect one inconsistency we found in Canada. Just wondering, why with all those trees are rolls of Canadian toilet paper narrower than those in the USA? Is that statement of the relative size of our... Nah. It seems few people pass through Watson Lake, Yukon without leaving a sign that they had been there. Here's the Surf sign designed and being installed by Joanne. They have a saying in Alaska, a true Alaskan still has everything he's ever owned in the front yard. This is one piece of evidence that there is always use for old stuff. Just a hint of the higher cost of living in Alaska is driven home by this bold sign. This was a grand opening special? The sign for an Alaska State RV park turned out to be placed on the edge of the park. We shouldn't have turned. Another mile or so would have eliminated this adventure. After we got good and lost, we unhitched the Chevy Tracker and Joanne went down the road to see if we were ever going to find a way out. Nope. When she came back with the bad news, I had to turn around on this narrow road. The bad news, I bent the chrome exhaust pipe on that maneuver. However, getting lost isn't always a bad thing. Joanne and I saw a little sign along the road that said Newmar Rally. We unhooked the Chevy Tracker to see what was going on. The further we got down this road and then over a very narrow wooden bridge, we kept saying that there just can't be a campground down this road. It looked too private. We finally came to a 2-story log cabin. The owners immediately invited us to stay in their yard for a regional Newmar RV rally. Not to turn down hospitality, we took them up on their offer. 3 young couples from Germany saved up 8 weeks of vacation time to travel together in the United States and Canada. We shared our satellite internet connection with them at the state park near Seattle, and then we met them again in Alaska. Small world. The third couple's sleeping quarters were in a tent structure on top of the Volkswagen that had a motor. What ingenuity. Calling Chicken, Alaska unique is hardly adequate. The postmaster said that the population doubles when a family of 14 returns. No one knows why they come and go. Her husband delivers mail once a month to people way out in the woods. With 18 plus years of Chamber of Commerce management experience, I thought that I could help the only 3 business owners of the 5 to 6 business establishments in Yukon. Being off the electric grid, all 3 had their own huge AC generators. I suggested only running each generator 1 day out of 3 and using electric meters. Their response? That would mean we'd have to get along. These silver salmon are all trying to get up and over a small dam. They are not only touching side by side, but there's 2 and 3 deep. This is just one of the reasons that Alaskans like fishing and hunting. There's always plenty of game. You'd think that with the very short tourist season, every business would stay open at least during regular business hours, but businesses, even those that only sell tourist stuff, would close the first day of any fish or game season, and Alaska has a lot of those seasons. Hope you enjoyed the human element comments about Alaskans. Before we conclude our trip, let's look at a few more scenics. After all, those are what drew us north of the 48-state border in the first place. In 6 years of full-time RVing prior to our Alaskan trip, Joanne had said that she had never met a grump. After seeing this sign while exploring a back road out of Yukon, Alaska, we decided not to chance breaking that record. We left Alaska the next day. We hope you enjoyed riding along.